Gucci Mane and Ye both suffer from bipolar disorder.
Kanye, what's the best part about being a dad?
I got the most handsome baby.
But in the clips you just showed, they both look normal.
Yeah, I know. That's the entire point.
Because bipolar disorder is really all around you. Seriously, you probably work with someone who has bipolar disorder and you would never know. For example, bipolar could be this.
He transcended college football and also sports.
Delonte West with a big shot.
But so can this.
Sometimes I won't leave my room for a month at a time.
Because I see you, I always see you over here.
And this is a personal video for me because I suffer from it too. And with Gucci and Ye, we really get two perfect examples of what bipolar disorder can look like simply because of how it's managed. Imagine all of a sudden, everything just magically seems to make sense. You now have more motivation than you know what to do with, and you feel like you just can't lose. You don't need much sleep, and you can't sleep anyways, because there are way too many important things to do right now. The ideas are just hitting your brain incredibly fast, and they all sound amazing. Let me paint the picture for you. It's 3 a.m., you're 30 years old, and out of nowhere, something clicks. You need to start skateboarding again. It's called hypomania, and it feels good, but it can be really destructive too. You're going to take this thing very seriously. You're going to get good again, and in order to do this, you're going to build an entire skate park in your backyard. Now, within 30 minutes of that idea landing in your head, you've already spent $4,000 on lumber, metal, tools, and all the gear to make it happen. Your girl is sleeping right next to you, and the sad part is you didn't even bother to talk to her about any of the things you're doing and all this money you're spending. When she wakes up and sees the bank account, she's absolutely furious, but here's the scary part, you don't even feel bad. All she's doing is irritating you because clearly she doesn't see the vision. The goal is to start skateboarding again, and right now she's getting in the way. God, is she ever annoying, bro? Like, she has no idea how dope this park is gonna be. Absolutely no one will get in the way of what you got going on right now, which is why you're going to Best Buy to get a camera so that we can film the skateboarding. Now, I still don't think the camera was a bad idea because I used it to start this channel, but it spent years collecting dust. Oh yeah, by the way, you also started investing in cryptocurrency and you're training to run a marathon. You've already spent another $1,000 on running shoes and gear. You see, this is all part of a bigger plan that they just don't understand. If you're able to channel this into just one task, you could get a lot done, you can make amazing things, but more times than not, you're working on a lot of different things and you're not really getting anything done. This phase can last a few days or sometimes weeks, and the risky behavior just seems to grow with it. Drug use is very common during these episodes, and it obviously makes things even worse. Usually the longer it goes on, the bigger pile of shit you leave behind.
What goes on? I know one day it's got to come down.
What goes up must come down, and when it does go down, it gets extremely ugly. Did you really think that all that energy that you had was free? Because that is not how this works. You didn't earn that energy, you basically borrowed it. You took out a loan against your future self. You drained the bank, there's nothing left. You feel hollow, soulless, and pathetic. So now it's time to completely vanish. Lock the doors, close the curtains, and get the bedroom as dark as possible. You are literally nothing like the person you were a few days ago. You are the complete and utter opposite. Just days ago, you would carry on a long conversation with a complete stranger, but now the last thing you want to do is talk to any human being. Reality has finally hit you. Everything you said, everything you did, and the damage you caused along the way. There's a heavy amount of shame and embarrassment, and it gets worse if you cheated on your girl or you got arrested, got in a fight. Like, you know, all those things happened to me many times. You start deleting all the Facebook posts you made about the cryptocurrency coins that you felt would make you rich. Eventually, you shut your phone off completely because every few seconds you're reminded more and more of how unrealistic you acted. Now your backyard is full of half-built skateboard ramps. You invested a bunch of money in crypto, cameras, and running gear. Thousands of dollars you didn't have, spent during a moment you really couldn't control. I can't even put into words how low you feel at this point. You missed several days of work during this episode, and now you're going to miss even more time. You easily ran 10 kilometers a day for a full week straight. However, now, just a few days later, you don't even have the energy to get out of bed to brush your teeth. You haven't brushed your teeth in 5 days, bro. Like, you feel disgusting and worthless. You turn your phone back on, you open Google, but this time you're not searching for power tools or the best running shoes. You're searching for the quickest and most painless method to end your own life. And I have to include this because this is the reality, right? Like, something like 50% of us will attempt it or try it, and then 20% is successful in taking their life, which is like this is a massive number. Now, because there are a few different types of bipolar disorder, all of this can look different from person to person, but the depressive episodes can last anywhere from a week to several months. This is just one of many of my own stories that kept happening over and over again. Getting fired from jobs, bouncing from girl to girl, not being faithful, always in trouble, taking any drug I could get my hands on. This went on for over a decade, undiagnosed, before I finally got the help that I needed. I was a young man suffering from this illness that I didn't know I had. And I'm not special. There's people facing these exact same demons right now, and they don't know either. And once you get the help, what makes a significant difference is what you choose to do with it. I was disappointed with myself because we've talked about this so many times, right?
When you don't sleep and you just work and work and work, you get up here. Right?
That's what happened. The clips I showed in the intro of this video were included for a very good reason. Medication, exercise, reading, eating right, avoiding substances, therapy. These are all very important tools on my belt because I use them to remain stable. And this is why Gucci Mane is an amazing example, because he's got a belt full of tools and he's been using them really effectively.
Every single day I walk along a tightrope with one foot in front of the other. Some days I'm confident, feeling like the rope won't snap and I'll never fall. Other days I sway from side to side, but I still stay on the rope regardless. And I know that if my mind is clear, I'll make it to the other side. This is the daily struggle of maintaining my mental health.
When Gucci first came out of prison in 2016, after being locked up for 3 years, he looked so different that people called him a clone. They stared at his face and his body in disbelief and completely ignored what was obvious. Gucci clearly did a lot more work behind those walls than just working out.
I want to fly away. I want to fly away.
Just left out the gym, I'm about to take a swim and meditate.
Massive difference, but he didn't get there overnight. Gucci shares a very similar story with many people who suffer from bipolar disorder, and that is completely denying that you have the illness upon initial diagnosis.
She was like, I'm very concerned about Gucci. She said that you were bipolar, and she was like, so it's a lot of issues with
I wonder who said that, because if she know me, she know I'm not bipolar.
A lot of us don't want to accept that we have this illness. Like, it's a scary thing to be told, right? It feels like you have, like, oh, here's your new identity. This is like, you're gonna live with this for the rest of your life.
I had heard that Gucci actually has some sort of condition, whether it's bipolar or something like that, and that he's supposed to be taking medication, but he doesn't.
When I was 24, a psychiatrist told me I was bipolar, and I laughed in her face and left. Not listening to her really turned out to be one of the biggest regrets that I've had in life. Then 6 years later, another psychiatrist told me the exact same thing. Matthew, we believe you have bipolar disorder. Again? Maybe there's some truth to this. And when it comes to this illness, many of the incidents and details that I shared about myself are also things that Gucci experienced.
Gucci Mane launched into an epic Twitter tirade on Monday, slamming some of hip-hop's biggest names.
When it's over with, I'm so embarrassed that I said that. It ain't a good thing, you feel me? You can't even believe you said that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
He doesn't speak to you. He wants to be left alone.
He violated the terms of his probation by drinking alcohol and doing drugs.
You'd be giving away stuff.
I gave away jewelry.
Money.
Jewelry costs so much. You know how much it costs for jewelry? Like, I gave away, I would give my friends jewelry and like.
The whole moment led you to jail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was that was like a week of shit.
It was a build-up. It was a build-up. It's like it started getting worse.
Now, Gucci and myself obviously live completely different lives, but you could see that the pattern of behavior is pretty much identical. When many people see the new Gucci Mane, they just see a guy that started going to the gym, but for me, I see so much more. I see a man who finally accepted his mental illness.
Cause hey, I'm bipolar. Man, I would never say that. I'd be like, ain't nothing wrong with me.
I see a man who recognizes the importance of medication.
So taking medicine that prescribed for me, what she thought, and it worked.
I see a man who found sobriety.
I know my vices now. I got just clarity on. I know if I do this, where it's gonna end up.
I see a man who found therapy.
It's like I seen a therapist.
I see a man who fuels his mind with good food.
This kale right here, I'm trying to be healthy.
I see a man who understands the importance of sleep and structure as it pertains to the illness.
I got like a simple life. I wake up early, I work out, man. By the time it's 8 o'clock, I'm tired. I want to lay down.
Lastly, I see a man with a very important piece of the puzzle, and that is his wife, who clearly took the time to learn and understand the illness. She's extremely knowledgeable about it, and this is a major part of Gucci's success.
I take his apps off his phone. First thing I do, I delete Instagram, I delete everything. And now before the episodes come, I catch it. So Gucci, you just have to accept that you're not well and fix it. Just accept it. I said, people take Tylenol every day. Just take your medication every day.
You know, when I seen the comments about his wife, and they were calling her a handler, and oh, she's got him drugged up, and Nicki Minaj said some shit, which was incredibly ignorant and irresponsible for her to say. But if you actually do the research on what you should be doing as a spouse, if you got a partner with bipolar disorder, Gucci's wife is literally doing everything to a T. She clearly took the time to educate herself on this, right? He's really lucky to have her.
She's a huge support system for me, and she's like one of the big reasons how I changed my life, because I was just in such a dark place.
It was only like 2 or 3 months of dating me that my girl realized there was something clearly wrong with me, right? Like, she saw I was struggling, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have never went to the doctor. She's the reason why I got help. It's not a coincidence that Gucci Mane hasn't had a single arrest, online rant, or public embarrassing moment since he started taking his mental health seriously. It's not a coincidence that the last time I was arrested was 2019, and I now have a healthy, sober relationship of almost 7 years. It's not a coincidence that if you spend 5 minutes on Reddit in bipolar communities, you'll see post after post of people saying that meds saved their life. With that said, not everyone responds to meds, right? I've heard stories of, people going decades and trying many different combinations of drugs, and unfortunately, they still never find what seems to work for them. Gucci developed a very strict system that he doesn't go outside of. He's not a wild card anymore. He's predictable. And with this illness, predictable is one of the best places you can be.
Everything is so different for me now. My values are different. Every morning, my wife makes sure that I take my medicine as soon as I wake up. I know now that it can change everything. I've learned that lesson. Every morning I run on the beach. I lift my weights and I eat right. I talk to a therapist. I have no desire to pick up lean or pills ever again. I know firsthand what it can do to you. There were times when it was touch and go. But here we are. Here I am.
Because I'd rather be dead than to be on medication.
It does matter! It does matter! It does matter!
It matters to us and you.
If you thought this section was going to be about how Ye dropped the ball and how he's failing himself, you're totally wrong, because Ye is a representation of so many people who share this illness.
Do you experience nervousness or shakiness inside, trouble remembering things, feeling easily annoyed or irritated, feeling blue, sad. Thoughts of ending your life.
As you know, Ye is someone who is not a stranger to public outbursts, but in 2016, he was hospitalized and diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And in the beginning, he accepted it. He was actually a really good voice for the bipolar community.
I feel like you feel like being bipolar is part of what makes you brilliant, part of what makes you you, and you embrace it.
Yeah. It's not an opposite. It's not I hate being bipolar, it's awesome. It's actually, it drives more of how you really feel. It doesn't do an opposite.
A lot of people that get diagnosed are actually really relieved when they find out, because now there's like a name for it, right? Like, oh, this is why I was acting this way. And there's a path forward, right? However, the world knows Ye as the creative genius behind what, in my opinion, is the most legendary run of albums in the history of the genre. He's the man who's going to innovate. He's the man who's going to push the boundaries. And he's a man that shares a very common complaint about bipolar medication, and that is that it takes away that spark.
It destroyed my confidence. It made me this shell of who I really am. It blocked my ability to channel what God wanted me to do.
Being the creative genius mastermind, that's Ye's identity, right? So if he takes the meds and he feels like he's losing that, he's literally losing who he is. And with this, we see a mix of reactions. Some say that meds didn't impact their creativity at all. Some say it even made it better for them. But Ye is definitely not alone in this. Many say the exact same thing. In fact, here is a scientific study on this very issue. In the case of myself, I have the same problem as Ye. I just don't feel as energetic or electric as I once did, and Gucci said the same thing. There's a bunch of times I've mentioned this to my girl, like, I wonder what my videos would be like if I wasn't medicated, and she'll be like, you wouldn't have a channel. You would have crashed out 1,000 times by now. One of the biggest reasons why people go off their bipolar medication is because they miss that euphoric feeling. They miss that quick problem-solving, creative, enhanced energy. A lot of people say this, a lot. Like, oh, I just want to feel like myself again. I feel dull. So Ye is far from a one-off example. This is a very common pattern with this illness, and there's even research to support a real connection between the bipolar brain and creativity, especially in the arts.
It does seem like it's an astonishing number of very high-level creative people who do have the illness.
There's a movie called Touch with Fire that hits on this theme perfectly. Two bipolar artists meet in a psychiatric facility and they end up falling in love, and the guy starts convincing her that bipolar disorder, especially mania, isn't an illness at all. He sells it to her like they have a special gift and that it should never be medicated.
Those are good poets. You know, they were both bipolar.
You think every great artist was bipolar. It's fine if it helps you.
We of the craft are all crazy. Some are affected by gaiety, others with melancholy, but all are more or less touched. Crazy connections between bipolar and artistic genius. Instead of being ashamed of it, she made it a gift.
In case you want to watch it, I won't ruin it, but they break out of the mental institution, they go off meds, and it turns out really bad for them.
Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He was still king.
And that's pretty much the exact same result that most people with the illness face when they go off their meds. It doesn't seem to take long before things go really bad, and there's scientific studies on this as well. You may think you have this creative advantage, but normally it's really destructive, so it cancels itself out. Something else we've heard Ye complain about is that the medication made him gain weight, and out of any complaint he's made, this one is the most common. This is absolutely a real side effect for millions of people with the illness, and again, we have strong signs to support this.
And have been diagnosed, put on medication to make me fat.
Another very common pattern of behavior that Ye shares with other bipolar individuals is at certain points, making claims that they don't actually have the disorder. You see, this illness has a funny way of telling you that you don't need meds anymore and that you're totally fine. This is another one of the main reasons why people go off their medication. But then when they come back down and they crash and whatever happens in their life, they end up on meds again and they accept it. This is exactly why I said Ye is a perfect representation of so many people with the illness, and that's why I'm not here to judge them. I sympathize with them heavy because I know how real that medication trade-off can feel. There's no doubt in my mind that some of his most critically acclaimed work could have been created in a hypomanic or manic state, but that's the trap, because the exact same fire that helps you create can be the same fire that burns your whole life down if it's not controlled. So you want to feel like your old self again, but really at what cost? Do you think it's a coincidence that Kanye goes on a series of rants a couple times a year, entirely disappears, and deletes his accounts?
Deleted his Twitter and Instagram account.
Do you think it's a coincidence that on those rants, you can clearly see by the timing of tweets that he isn't sleeping? Do you think it's a coincidence that just like Gucci, myself, and many others, Ye has a documented history of mismanaging funds?
Come home and we had like 5 Lamborghinis, and I'd come home and they'd all be gone. You know, if he was in an episode, and I'd be like, oh wait, where's all our cars? Like my new car. And it would be like, oh, he gave them away to all of his friends. And then I'd be like, huh, okay. And then I'd come home again, and at a different point we had, you know, 5 more Lamborghinis, and then I'd wake up in another episode and they'd all be gone again. And that time I was like, keep them, guys.
Do you really think it's a coincidence that Ye keeps turning into a public spectacle year after year, having these bizarre moments that most people can't even make sense of?
I see good things about Hitler also.
Do you think it's a coincidence that Ye recently disappeared from online activity again, and soon after admitted to being bipolar again when apologizing to Jewish people?
Dealing with bipolar also. So it would take the ideas I had and have them taken them to an extreme.
Look, being bipolar doesn't make you anti-Semitic, and it's not an excuse for bad behavior. Any good therapist will tell you the same thing. You still have to take accountability for your actions. With that said, do I believe that if Ye were medicated and actually stable, that he'd still be doing and saying some of the things he's done? Absolutely not. No, I feel like a lot of this could have been prevented, or at a minimum, it wouldn't have escalated to the points it has. That doesn't erase what happened, it doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't take away the responsibility, but it does explain how fast this illness can spiral if it's not treated. Ye is not some bipolar anomaly. He's one of many people with this illness who goes through the exact same cycle. Getting stable, denying, crashing, denying, accepting, and then repeating. That's why he's an amazing example for the video. Ye isn't a monster. He's a human being with a real illness playing out in public, and I genuinely hope he finds the balance and stability he needs for himself and his family. He's already accomplished amazing things in life, and I feel he can keep accomplishing great things with treatment, with structure, with the right routine. And look, he might say things that you agree with or that you think is true, but that doesn't mean that the guy is well. Bipolar disorder is never a one-size-fits-all approach. We're all different and we respond to treatment different, but I'm going to be entirely real. I've met very few people who can manage this illness long-term without the right support and the right treatment, and accepting that treatment isn't being weak, it's actually being strong.